It's an urban dweller's worst nightmare.
In the 19th century, Jamaica faced a horrifying attack, not by soldiers, but by rats.
Rats are running amok.
They wrecked crops, spread disease, and threatened the island's balance.
It's every farmer's living nightmare.
Eager for a fix, authorities released thousands of predators into the wild, believing nature would restore itself. At first it seemed like a wise tactic, but nature had its own agenda. What was meant to save the island soon spiraled into a nightmare, one that reshaped Jamaica's ecosystem and left behind a chilling lesson about tampering with nature's design. Paradise under siege, the mongoose problem. During the 1800s, Jamaica's booming sugarcane industry faced an unexpected enemy: invasive rats. Black and brown rats arrived silently aboard European ships and quickly spread across the island. With predators absent, the rodents thrived in Jamaica's abundant fields, feasting on tall, sweet sugarcane stalks. For plantation owners, however, the rats were a devastating threat. By the 1870s, nearly 20% of the sugarcane crop rotted in the fields before it ever reached the mills, causing massive economic losses. Planters tried various solutions, but none worked. Cats couldn't reach rats hiding underfoot. Traps and poisons failed against the rats' rapid breeding. Each night, millions swarmed the fields by day, and they vanished into burrows. In desperation, unusual experiments followed. Bullfrogs imported from Barbados instead attacked chickens, while Cuban ants targeted birds and small animals, ignoring the rats. Weasels and stoats vanished into forests, unchecked the swarm. By the late 1800s, the rat problem was out of control, bankrupting farmers and threatening Jamaica's sugar industry. In a bold yet unwise move, planters decided to introduce natural predators to curb the rats. While seemingly logical, this decision sparked one of history's most notorious ecological mistakes, proving that when humans try to outsmart nature, the consequences can be both unexpected and disastrous. When Espute's solution turned deadly, William Bancroft Espute, owner of Spring Garden Estate in Portland, was frantic. Rats had been destroying sugarcane crops every year, causing huge losses. Refusing to give up, Espute turned to an unexpected solution: the mongoose. Stories from India detail it as a fearless, fast hunter of rats. His wife, Bessie, had even seen one chase and kill rats with amazing speed. Unlike cats or toads, mongooses could hunt during the day and enter burrows, perfectly matching the rats' habits. In February 1872, Espute released 9 mongooses, 4 males and 5 females, on his estate. Within 6 months, the results were admirable. Sugarcane fields were less damaged, rat burrows were mostly empty, and sightings dropped keenly. The mongooses hunted where other predators had failed, reducing crop losses by over 70%. Espute carefully noted the results. News of his success circulated quickly across Jamaica. Plantation owners requested pair bonds, and mongooses were imported from India. The animals thrived in the tropical climate and bred rapidly. By 1882, they had spread everywhere from houses and fields to forests and mountains. The effect seemed unbelievable. Jamaican sugar producers saved an estimated £150,000 annually, roughly $30 million today. Crops survived, profits returned, and the economy secured. But a hidden danger emerged. The mongooses were not only hunting rats. They began preying on other wildlife, quietly disrupting Jamaica's ecosystem. What seemed like a perfect solution was slowly turning into a long-term ecological issue that would haunt the island for generations. A new direction. The warning came from the man who had started it all. In 1888, 16 years after releasing the first mongooses, William Espute admitted a concerning truth in a letter to the Institute of Jamaica. The mongooses, once praised for their ability to control rats, were no longer hunting them capably. Espute described the animals as spoiled, revealing a flaw in a plan that had once seemed perfect. The mistake was simple, yet ruinous. Espute had observed mongooses as pets, feeding only on rats. In the wild, however, Jamaica offered a much wider range of prey. The mongooses began hunting easier targets, ignoring the clever, nocturnal, and partly arboreal rats. The animals that had inspired hope on sugar plantations were failing in their original role. Soon, the ecological fallout became obvious. Birds stopped singing in the mornings, frogs fell silent at night, and forests and fields seemed barren. Initially, people blamed disease, hunting, or climate change, but the timing was clear. Species began disappearing soon after mongooses spread. British naturalists visiting in the 1890s documented dramatic declines in wildlife they had observed only years earlier. Ground nesting birds vanished. Lizards, snakes, and frogs that once thrived became rare or extinct. The Jamaican petrel and porwheel disappeared. Native species, seemed the giant gallowasp and rice rat, couldn't survive the new predator. Across the Caribbean, the pattern repeated. Birds vanished in Cuba, reptiles declined in Puerto Rico, and amphibians disappeared from Hispaniola. Over the years, the mongoose went from farm hero to ecological threat, leaving behind a trail of lasting destruction. Battling the invasion. As scientists documented the decline of wildlife, farmers began facing a new emergency. The mongooses that were brought in to save sugarcane now attacked livestock. Young hogs, goat kids, lambs, kittens, puppies, and chickens all became targets. Hen houses were raided, sometimes losing entire flocks quickly. They even ate fruit from trees, mangoes, papayas, and nibbled on sugarcane itself. Around 1893, agricultural journals were filled with complaints. The Jamaican mongoose had gone from hero to pest. Its adaptability made it impossible to control. It ate anything it could catch, showing no preference for rats. Fences, drilling, or protective measures offered little defense. In India, mongooses lived alongside dozens of predators, jackals, leopards, and wild dogs, keeping their colonies in check. With no competition, mongooses became apex predators, hunting defenseless prey freely. Modern studies revealed that 93% of their diet consisted of invertebrates and lizards, not rats, while the remaining 7% included birds, eggs, small mammals, fruit, and occasionally rats. For isolated island ecosystems, this generalist predator was catastrophic. By the 1890s, colonial officials realized the damage. Trinidad banned mongoose imports in 1899, learning from Jamaica's mistake, but too late. The animals had already spread across dozens of islands, invading all habitats. A roadmap to protect crops had unleashed an unstoppable force, derailing ecosystems far beyond the sugar fields it was meant to save. Rabies risk from ticks. With the disappearance of insect-eating birds and reptiles, Jamaica's ecosystem began to unravel, and a new problem emerged: ticks. In 1891, Dr. James Philippo warned of the rising infestation, joking that lying in the grass was now impossible without picking up parasites. By 1896, visitors like Henry Hesketh Bell had to use oil to remove mites from their rooms. Without natural predators, mites multiplied rampant. Further crises rapidly emerged. With birds and reptiles gone, caterpillars multiplied unchecked, devastating hundreds of plantation plots. Meanwhile, mongooses thrived, a constant reminder of that one disastrous introduction. By the late 20th century, rabies, once controlled in dogs and cats, found a new reservoir in mongooses. By the 2000s, the virus spread through mongoose populations in Antigua, Cuba, Grenada, Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico alone, 70–80% of rabies cases over 25 years were related to mongooses, impacting both livestock and humans. Currently, small Indian mongooses are the main rabies carriers on several Caribbean islands, costing millions in health efforts. Once seen as sugar industry heroes, they're now known as ecological threats and disease spreaders. Listed in the 1990s as one of the world's most dangerous invasive species, their story highlights the unintended impacts of human interference with nature. The struggle to eradicate. By the early 20th century, Caribbean governments tried to reduce mongoose populations.
Well, for the first time, the state's considering a widespread plan to try and curb the mongoose population.
Jamaica discussed control measures by 1898, and in 1905, Governor Hudson offered rewards. Trinidad launched official programs, but complete extinction proved hopeless. Small-scale efforts like trapping every mongoose on Buck Island failed because new animals swam in from neighboring islands. Puerto Rico faced the same stress, and Cuba's massive 1980s campaign treated over 1 million eggs with neurotoxin, yet populations remained tough. Grenada's 1970s program used 840,000 bait stations, only to see numbers rebound within 6 months. Mongooses breed too quickly. Trials showed that even after removing 88% of the local population, it fully recovered within 7 weeks. Hostile culling also increased rabies risk, as disrupted social hierarchies led to more roaming, fights, and disease spread. Eradication was impossible. The Caribbean had no choice but to live with the consequences of introducing a predator that had become unstoppable, a lasting lesson in ecological blunder. Enduring the legacy. Today, scientists agree that uprooting mongooses from large islands like Jamaica is impossible. Control efforts are costly, labor-intensive, and largely ineffective. Instead, resources focus on protecting fragile species and managing the greatest threat mongooses pose, spreading rabies. Oral vaccination programs show promise, with Bates distributing rabies vaccines in critical areas. Early trials in Puerto Rico suggest reduced rabies cases, but the approach is expensive and requires ongoing effort as new mongooses arrive. Eradication math is daunting. Removing mongooses from 0.4 square miles took 5 people, 6 days. Jamaica spans 4,300 square miles. Globally, only 6 small islands have fully eradicated mongooses, while 33 Caribbean islands have seen failed attempts. In Jamaica, conservationists now focus on creating protected zones with reduced mongoose numbers to save native species like the critically endangered Jamaican iguana. This ongoing battle highlights a crucial lesson. Introducing new predators poses unpredictable risks, and once unleashed, they can be impossible to manage. Share your thoughts below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.